Hello everyone and welcome to the next instalment of the Royal Automobile Club talk show in association with Motorsport. I'm Ed Foster and I'm the online editor of Motorsport magazine. For those of you who listened to our first talk show with Ross Brawn and Nick Fry last month, you'll know that you can listen to these via SoundCloud, Acast and on both the club's website and Motorsports. You can also watch us on YouTube. Now, if you didn't listen, I can only tell you that you missed a fascinating hour talking about Brawn GP, the demise of Honda F1 at the end of 2008. Now, this is a brand new series of talk shows by the club in association with Motorsport in the club space in Pall Mall. And we're going to be delving into the world of motorsport with guests from Formula One, motorbikes, and sports cars. So, this month, appropriately, we are in the Seagrave room. And I'll tell you more about this later, and we have Ben Cousins here to talk about it. And we are joined by Ben, who is the current chairman of the Seagrave Trophy nominations and 23-time winner of the Isle of Man TT, John McGuinness. John, I actually saw on your Twitter profile yesterday that you've described yourself as doing a bit of racing, won the odd TT. One or two. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, because I know that you hammered it back from Le Mans, not breaking any speed limits, to get here late last night and to be here this morning for this talk show. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
The TT is quite soon. How are preparations going for that?
Yeah, really good. You know, we're in gear. We're all ready to go. I've got the same team, same machine basically, with a few tweaks here and there, and you know, same mechanics, same tires, same wife, same kids. It's just, it's really good. I mean, it's really difficult to prepare for a TT. The track's so unique, it's so big, and you know, you can't really prepare yourself until you drop the clutch and head off down Bray Hill, and you know, straight away there's no easing your way into it. It's just flat out 180 mile an hour down Bray Hill and away you go. But you know, we had a week test in Monteblanco in Spain, which went really well, and we already had a test at Castle Combe. We used Castle Combe as a test circuit for the TT because it's quite bumpy, quite fast. So, and there isn't many tracks that are as rough as Castle Combe, and probably not got as much runoff as Castle Combe as well. So preparation's good. I mean, at the moment, nothing's broken, so we can't really fix it. You know, it's just, yeah. I keep looking at myself in the mirror. You know, I'm 44 in a couple of weeks. I look pretty average, and but I feel good. You know, the fire's still burning. The passion's still there. Everybody's behind me still 100%. And you know, it comes this time of year, we're doing the same thing. You know, getting the mileage in, getting a bit of bike fitness going, and yeah, we're prepared and ready.
What I wanted to do today is sort of wind back 20 years, because this year is your 20th anniversary of competing at the TT. It's an amazing figure. And I sat down and I tried to have a think about other sportsmen that have been at the top of their game for 20 years, because you have been at the front of the TT. And there's obviously Rossi in bikes, the likes of Fittipaldi, Mark Martin, Richard Petty, Brian Redman, probably a couple of footballists and maybe some cricketers, but doing a 5-day test isn't really the same as going around the TT. So going back to 96, what was it like going there for the first time, knowing you were actually going to be competing? Can you remember what the sort of apprehension?
Yeah, you know, it was an amazing journey really. I could sit here probably for an hour and just talk about that one first TT. You know, I was doing some British Championship. I did the Northwest 200. It was the first road race I did in '94. But I was struggling as privateer, didn't really have any budget to run anything. I was running on old tyres, old pistons, old brake pads. And, you know, I always wanted to do the TT, but never knew how I would do it. But I wanted to do it properly at some stage. And, you know, I was lucky I got some sponsorship off Paul Bird. And you know, I got my first new bike, and I had all the tools with me, you know. And I thought, and we had a real successful Northwest 200. I was lying second in the race with Joey Dunlop and all these top riders. And I thought, I remember saying to Birdie, I said, do you fancy doing the TT? And he went, go on then. And it was just like that. I got a real late entry for it. And but I knew I always wanted to do it. But, you know, I got off the ferry and I had nowhere to stop. I was stopping in my van, my empty box van, basically. And it's a real good friend of mine who's not with us anymore, called Mick Lofthouse. He said, you know, do the TT, you know, you'll be fine. You know, you're a smooth rider. You know, just come over and do it. And And he said, I'll meet you outside the hotel. I'm stopping in the Monaville Hotel. And so I pulled up outside the Monaville Hotel. The very doctor, like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was laid on the front of the seats having a bit of a snooze. And Mick come out and said, oh, great, you're here. And I'll come in for a breakfast. And, you know, the Isle of Man community and everybody in Isle of Man so friendly. They invited me in for breakfast. And then they ended up giving me a room in the hotel. So I had like a box room at the hotel. And I always wondered why Mick stopped there. You know, Mick Loftus stopped there. And I think he had to run across a landing at the night time and give the old landlady a bit of a servicing every now and again. I think that was part of the deal. So it was a few extras tied in there. But yeah, I mean, and I remember going on the start line, and he used to practice at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was 5:15, so he'd be up at 4 in the morning. You get your bike scrutineered. It was still dark at the time, and it was one of those 4 seasons in. Not in one day, it was actually 4 seasons in one lap, because the lap's so big. It was a bit damp, and then it was wet, then it was windy, there was leaves on the track, and then there was fog on the mountain, and there was quite low sun around Ramsey. So I was like, what am I doing involved in this? And you know, little Mick set off on his 125, off he disappeared. And you know, it was really tough, because that year as well, on the last day of practice on the Friday, actually Mick crashed and was killed actually in practice, and it was, you know, I felt like at the time just loading up and going home. You know, this is not for me, and I thought, you know, the sun came out, and it had been a bad patchy week of practice, and then I thought I'll do the race and see how I feel, and off we went. And you know, Joey Dunlop won the race. I finished 15th. I got the best newcomer award, and the rest is history, if you like. But yeah, it just got hold of me that year, and you know, but going back to when I was a kid, going with my dad, you know, 10 years old, watching the racing. My dad did a little bit of racing, and he wasn't a bad old racer, my dad, but he was too interested in drinking, fighting, and women. That was that was my dad's problem. But yeah, I mean, 96. I remember. I can just remember it so much, and there's lots of other things I remember from it, you know, as well. Some, you know, I remember seeing Mick Loftus' helmet on the side of the road, and I thought, oh, Mick's broken down, and he hadn't. He'd crashed and stuff. So, but you know, it made me stronger, I suppose. And I came back the year after in '97 on my little Aprilia 250, and I stood on the podium for the first time with Joey Dunlop and Ian Locker, and you know, I came back in '98, Honda's 50th anniversary, and just I've ridden everything there. You know, 2-strokes, 4-strokes, singles, 250s, 125s, Ducatis, V-twins, and like I say, the rest is history, and I just can't get it out of my system yet.
Some of you may have noticed on the video, we are joined by Isle of Man TT winner himself, Matt Oxley, and motorsport journalist. Matt, very warm welcome. We're just talking about the John's first ever TT. You mentioned there, John, there was you know, Joey Dunlop won the race, and you were lying second to him at Northwest 200. What was it like, you know, with the likes of Joey Dunlop in front of you? I mean, you were, what, 25, I think, at the time?
Yeah, it was, and you know, it was funny, I was sort of really watching Joey, not watching where I was going, really. I thought, I shouldn't be here, that's the great man himself, you know, the most successful guy ever, and there was just something about him, I don't know what it was, but, you know, the yellow helmet, the Honda leathers on, and, you know, I was there slipstreaming him, passing him, and being alongside him, and whoa, you know, and it was really, really cool. It was amazing. I mean, I you know, he was my hero, and you know, going back before that, I went to get his autograph. He was at the bottom of Bray Hill in a garage with like the Rothmans factory, RVF 750s and stuff, and I bought a picture from the shop and took it down. I said, would you sign this? And I said to him, you know, I said, I'm going to stand on the podium with you one day, Joey. And he sort of just went, and it was sort of difficult to understand at the best of times. I was like, and in 1997, I did achieve that. You know, I did stand on the podium with him, and I actually reminded him. I said, do you remember? And he sort of said, there's a few F's and stuff in there, and that was about it. He never remembered, but I remembered it well, and you know, I was such a happy bunny, sat up on the podium with him, and again, you know, we're rivals, and I got quite friendly with him, and I don't think many people did get sort of in behind Joe, you know, and get into him a little bit, but maybe I was young and I was asking him millions of questions and flat out, because I was his teammate in 2000, Joey's last ever teammate on the Vimto SP1 Hondas, and I was a new boy. He was 48 years old, grey hair, specs on. He just didn't look like a racer, and that year he won 3 TTs, and whatever I've achieved, I'll never achieve what Joey achieved. He won on a superbike, then jumped on a 125 and won on a 125. So, if I jumped on a 125 now, it'd disappear up my. There's just no way I could win on a 125. So he was just so, just so much talent. And he was the same age as my dad, which made it really weird as well. So,
you sort of touched on that, asking him lots of questions. How useful were the older statesmen of the TT when you first arrived? Because it is, you always, it's a track that obviously, Matt, you'll know better than me, but it's experience there that counts so much, and knowledge. Yeah,
if you can just get any sort of information off anybody at that level, you take it. Even if it makes a tenth of a second on one corner, it's definitely worth all the questions that you ask. But he never said a right lot, didn't Joe? It sort of let you know he wasn't really ready to be talking, or then he'd sort of open up and buy a vodka and we'd be chatting away about all sorts of things. But there was lots of other riders as well. There was the Ian Lockers who won 7 TTs. There was Ian Duffus. There was Jim Moody. There was 8 times winner. There's Ian Simpson, 3 times winners. I was sort of the kid just sort of asking the questions, and I used to sneak in the awnings and look at the bikes, and I'd be trying to look at what gearing they had on and what rear sprocket they had on, and there was all sorts of tricks going on. There were people would put a blob of silicone over the number on the sprocket so they couldn't see what gearing they had on. But it was all the things that went on, and all the trickery and skullduggery going on in the paddock. But I looked up to them guys, Joey, all them top runners, and I just wanted to be there. And I served my time basically. I went in '96 and chipped away, and it took 3 years for me to win my first TT. And then even then, when I won my first TT, I was all, I'd be the one in the nightclub. I'd be up late. I wouldn't be prepared, eating the wrong food, no drinking stuff, not water and stuff. And I worked with other riders in the past, like Jim Moody. He whipped me into shape, got me in bed early, got me up, got me the first in line for practice and things like that. So all these riders, I massive respect for them, And even now at 43, I'm still learning. There's always something you can learn at the TT, because if it isn't the weather, the conditions, or a tyre, or the wind, or something, there's always something that will throw you a curveball at the TT.
When you first went there and you started here, you're there, the new boy on the block. It's such a big circuit. Was there a particular bit of the circuit that you felt you could go quicker at? Have you got a favourite bit of the circuit? Did you have a strategy? Let's attack, Douglas to the Glens, and then I'll deal with the rest later. Or did you try and take it all in one bite?
Yeah, it's funny because I went across at 17 years old on my Yamaha Teaser R125, with my paddock jacket on, jeans and t-shirts, jeans and trainers, and just hit lap after lap after lap after lap, put some more fuel in it, lap after lap, just round and round, and I learned the circuit. I wouldn't have said I learned the circuit. I knew that it was left or right or where I was on the circuit, but obviously when everything's off the track and the cars and and Mavis is not off for a loaf of bread in the car and stuff, it looks totally different. But I sort of knew where I was going, and there were certain areas that I picked up probably a little bit quicker, like the places like the mountain section. You would think that was the easiest part of the track to learn, but I always found it the most difficult part of the track, because there was no definitions, no walls, no lampposts or trees, anything to give you any peeling in points. It was all look the same. The only thing that's up there is a few sheep and a lot of blades of grass. But strategies, I was always a real good starter. I was made sure that my tyres were red out on the tyre warmers. I was really, really up for the start. And even I always think the first drop of the clutch, you see some riders are a little bit lazy off the line, and I think, you could lose a second and a half off the line, and that's so much harder to earn back on the track. So I always used to push to Glen Helen, and then for a lot of years I used to break him from the start, but now it's not really a strategy anymore. It's just like everybody's gone on to that now. Everybody's the same. And then you're thinking, well, no panic. Watch the boards. Keep going. Keep pushing. And then you're thinking pit stops are really important, super important. But bits of the track, I don't try not to have a favourite bit of the track or a place that I don't like. Cause you've got to get everything right. You've got to, just get every single part of the circuit to be right to go really, really fast.
Is there a bit of the track you particularly enjoy? Where you
Finish line probably, in the scene after the senior. It's a great relief when you cross the line. But you know, I have a little part of the circuit named after me now, which is really cool. I think it's really, really special. You know, they asked me which part of the circuit would I like being named after me. So, you know, there's Dukes, there's lots of, you know, Guthrie's and places like that. But unfortunately, they're all gone. So me and Dave Molyneux, the top sidecar driver, we've got our own bits of the track, and I don't know why I picked it. I do. You never see any spectators there. It's just a little right-left flick, sort of downhill left-hander before the top of Bagara, between Hanley's bends where the big walls are and the top of Bagara. It's just a little section through there, and it may be because when I won my first TT, I passed a lad called Owen McNally through there, and it just gave me such a thrill to pass him. And I remember he was on an Aprilia, and the bikes were so evenly matched, and because he just hesitated a little bit on the left, and I just kept under the screen and just passed him, and then I passed Adrian Archibald through there to win my first Superbike TT, and I just like it, so I named it there. So I can't wait till I retire. I'm just going to go there and with a case of beer and a few sandwiches and just tell the marshals, because there's probably some marshals there, tell them how fast they used to be through that corner.
It's a kind of classic TT corner. There's so many corners that don't have names, aren't there? Because there's too many for them to have names. But it's that kind of classic corner, as you said, where you know, somebody will just feather the throttle or lift up out the screen, and then, you know, you've lost all the speed down the next. I mean, it's a bit of a straight down towards top of
Bagara.
Top of Bagara.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you could lose 2 seconds there, couldn't you, or gain 2 seconds?
It's exactly why I like it. You know, those are the bits of the circuit where you could pinch half a second here, maybe 3/4 of a second there, and it's just that. It's just the build up, the anticipation. You go through Handleys for the big walls, and you've got to be sort of a bit patient into Handleys. Go through a little bit slower to get a good drive out, and then you build it up, and it's quite a physical bit of the track where you're sort of stood on the pegs and pushing the bike through the bends. But it's sort of, you get it right 70% of the time. Even now, I've just got to just roll it a little bit. I mean, the bikes are now at 210 plus horsepower, so they definitely get your attention, and you've got to be absolutely inch perfect. And when you do, it's one of those corners where you sort of get a bit of a G out as well. For quite like the bottom of Bagaro and bottom of Bray Hill, sort of the bike G's out, but it just only for a split second. But this seems to just, it sort of drives you in the seat through the corner, and it just gives me a bit of a thrill, and I named it after me. So it's cool. It's going to be on the map forever. Even when I'm gone, it's still going to be McGuinness's. So it's they have to change the map for me.
Well, something else that your name is going to be on is the Seagrave Trophy, and today is March 31st, and you're being awarded it. Ben, give us a bit of a background about the Seagrave. You know, obviously Mike Helwood, Joey Dunlop, John Surtees, lots of other brilliant bikers have won it. What's the history of it? And tell us.
So Henry, who's hanging on the wall behind me, he was an aviator in the First World War, and he was out of that group of people that they'd seen so much loss in the First World War. They kind of had a devil-may-care attitude, but they needed a buzz, and he found his buzz racing cars. He became the first Brit to win a Grand Prix in a British car in 1923. Then he went into land speed record breaking, first man to achieve 200 miles an hour on the beach at Daytona. Imagine doing 200 miles an hour on the sand. Then he turned his hand to water speed record, and he was the first man to hold the water and land speed records. Sadly, he wasn't too successful, and he crashed his boat on Windermere Friday the 13th, 1930. Allegedly, he didn't die immediately. He came around in hospital. His wife was there. He asked whether he'd broken the record. She said yes, at which point he promptly croaked. So he was the right spirit. But his widow, Doris, was a real, class act. She was determined that the struggles he'd gone through weren't going to happen to others, and so she created the Seagrave Trophy to be awarded to the individual on land, sea, or in air that demonstrates the benefits of transport. That's essentially put the spirit of adventure. And it's been awarded since 1930. Some years it isn't, because quite simply the nominations committee feel there's nobody worthy to receive it. Both Campbells have won it, Donald and Malcolm. Bill Bedford, the pilot of the Hawker Harrier, won it. We've had quite a lot of bikers. Jeff Duke was the first to win it. Barry Sheen's won it twice. We've had Steve Webster, sidecar rider, world champion. Carl Fogarty, for World Supers, and now we have a very worthy winner, a unanimous decision. When his name cropped up in the meeting, it was like, well, job's done then, isn't it? When you look at 23 TTs and 132.701 miles per hour, you go, respect. And what's lovely is the awards lunch, as many as the previous winners come. It's such an amazing roll call of greatness that they want to see who the next name on the tally is. So it's great to welcome John on there, and a very, very worthy winner.
John, how does it feel? Because obviously you're very used to winning a lot of trophies, but this one's just a little bit different because there's bringing the spirit in there and things like that.
The 132.701 was actually slowing down for the pits as well, by the way, so it could have been slightly quicker.
No need to rub it in.
Would have been 133 if it was a flying lap, but yeah, super proud of it. I mean, I was just doing some homework on it myself and looking through some of the lists, and like I say, the list is endless of legends, and I've had some lovely messages as well off Martin Brundle, off even off Valentino Rossi. Had some messages off Mark Webber and all these guys, and they're saying it's going to, it's going to be a prouder place in the trophy cabinet. I'm super proud to have it. It's like I say, I feel a little bit out of my depth in this place. But I served my time, I've done my job, and it's really pleased to get it, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to the day.
Just sort of going back to the TT, there's 20 years is as I mentioned, just an amazing time to be competing at the front of the grid. What have been the sort of big changes over that time? And you mentioned the bikes obviously are so powerful now. What's the biggest thing you've had to adapt to stay at the front?
One of the biggest things is the bikes, the constant change of the bikes, the power, the tyres, the circuit's still the same. There's still all the obstacles and all the ornaments around the track are still not going to move if you hit any of those. But yeah, there's a little bit. The one thing that's been a step forward is maybe the organisation, the marshalling. They've had a few times where it's been a little bit in the doldrums. People looked at the TT and just thought of the bad side of it. But over the last few years, it's changed a little bit. When I've been doing interviews and talking about the TT, I've been really positive about it, about the history of it, the heritage of it, all the world champions that have done it, and and the media behind it now. They don't talk about the bad side of it. They always talk about how great it's been and all the big speeds and and the atmosphere, the fans that go. It's still all sold out, still busy, still flat out busy, and probably I'm changing a little bit, getting a bit grey and a bit fatter, but there's still. It's not much has changed. It's still the same. You still got on that line, and for me, there's still the thrill and the buzz is still there and there. But yeah, nothing's really changed, I suppose.
Well, one question, but probably aimed at Matt as well as yourself, John. You've been testing at Le Mans in the last couple of days. It's billiard table smooth there. You can roll a penny down the pit straight. You talked about going to Castle Combe because it's the closest you can get to the TT mountain course. How difficult it is for you? Is it for you as a rider and also in the mechanics to set the bikes up when you're riding on the track that's really unique? It must be tricky because you've only got the reference from last year.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act with the bike. The bike has to be fast but reliable. The bike has to be, it's got to finish. That's you can give it more and more power, but it's a bit more vulnerable to breaking down. And but we run a slightly softer setup than you would do at a billiard table circuit like Le Mans or Donington or Cadwell or whatever. So slightly stronger, slightly heavier. We use aluminium wheels instead of titanium wheels, slightly heavier spindles, and you wouldn't believe it, but it's not massively trick. It's just a simple bike. The bike that's in the hall. We can have a look around it and show you some parts on it. It's you've got to be comfortable, wider handlebars, bigger screen, lower pegs, and just find the balance. You can never get a perfect setup at the TT because there is parts of the track where it's really, really smooth and bits that are really, really rough. So we just try and balance it up. It's normally a bigger fuel tank, 24-litre fuel tank instead of an 18-litre tank. Slightly different tyres, slightly harder compound tyres to keep because the tyres are spinning all the time. So a few little bits, but we go to Castle Combe, and normally within a couple of days I can tell what direction we're going in. But we haven't changed that bike that much. People think it's got a magic wand in it. It hasn't. It's just got it's just a great package. You know, BMW brought different bikes out, all the other manufacturers brought different bikes out, but sometimes power's not the answer. You know, it's just a balance of power, stability, confidence with the bike, and but yeah, it's you know, I just had a big smile on my face at Castle Combe last week. You know, Dunlop brought some different tyres out. That's, you know, just one little step forward, and you know, with it's my phone.
So I don't think that's the alarm to finish it.
You laugh at this. It's a little message to remind me I've got a crack in the windscreen of my motorhome, so I need to. And before I drive it to Le Mans, I don't want to crack the rest of the windscreen. A fortune they are. But,
more than anywhere, it is kind of. We've seen sort of bikes come and go, and bikes keep changing. As you say, the Fireblade's been around for a long, long time now, and it's just more than anywhere else. That's down to the rider, isn't it?
Do you know, we've tried swing arms, we've tried shock lengths, we've tried different wheelbases, different offsets, and we always go back to where we were in 2009. You know, it's the same bike. We did 131.6 in 2009, and the chain snapped in the senior, so we didn't get the win. But it, you know, we always go back to that. It's really weird. We're desperate to create something, but the bike's so good, the package has been so good for the last few years, and it works. You know, and I've been to the TT with a new bike, and there's so many different things can halt progress. You know, you get there and it could be raining on Monday, could be raining on Tuesday. So the first time you get on the bike's Wednesday. It's a new bike. All of a sudden you've got stability issues, handling issues, clutch issues, whatever. And then, you know, you could get out on the Wednesday night or the Thursday night and the bike breaks down. So you broke down in a place where you can't get back for another bike. So you could end up in Thursday of practice week having no time on the bike. But I know I can jump on my Honda, stick my helmet on and go flat out down Bray Hill, and if it was tomorrow I would just have all the confidence just to go pin down Bray Hill, and that's one of the big pluses for me, you know.
Obviously it's a battle against the elements and the circuit, but over the I think now has been is one of the most competitive times in road racing. Who have been your main competitors over the 20-year period? Is there any names that sort of leap to mind?
Yeah, there's a few coming. Definitely a few coming. Hutch is one of them. He's just been through the mill really with his leg injury, and I hope the Seagrave Trophy is a little bit better than the Torrance Trophy. Is that right?
Seagrave is very much the numero uno. Yeah.
That's okay then. As long as we can outstrut Hutchie, we're all right.
All the
I've
way,
seen some pictures here a few months ago of him here, but yeah, you've got Hutchie, you've got the Dunlop boys. Especially Michael, you know, such a character, such a determined, really. You know, he sticks the helmet on. Once the helmet's on, and you look in his eyes, I don't know what I see in there, but he does. I don't look at him, you know. But yeah, you know, Lee Johnson, there's James Hillier, but I look. The start numbers have just come out. The top 20 start numbers. I'm thinking, well, he can win. You know, I've got Bruce Anstey setting off behind me. He's 46 years old. He doesn't ride a bike. He's got a ridiculous long beard. He's the most unlooking motorbike racer in the world, you know, and then sleeps all day, and then he jumps on the bike and he does amazing things, you know. You know, you've got Hillier at 3, you've got Hutchie at number 4, you've got, you know, Peter Hickman's been coming through the ranks, you know, fastest ever newcomer, looking really strong. He's the big story. They moved him to number 5, so, you know, William Dunlop at 6, Gary Johnson, you know, Rutter. The old fox, he's 2 days older than me. He actually looks 2 years older than me. But Rutter's in at number 9, the most miserable man in motorbike racing. Connor Cummins, you can call me like that. He won't mind. I'm the tightest. Yeah, you've got Connor Cummins at 10 as well. So my teammate, the big 6'4" Manxman, you know, it's awesome. It's poised. It's mega. You know, there's so many of us could win, and I always try and look at the start numbers and think, well, try and find myself a bit of space somewhere in the top 10, but you know, there's nowhere to hide now. They moved Bruce to number 2, so I'm definitely gonna have to be on my toes from the start line. But I don't know. There's no real young riders. You can't be young and, well, I say apart from Michael. I mean, he's won 11 TTs at 25, 26 years old. I didn't do my first TT till I was 25. So, you know, where is he's going to be in 10 years, 12 years? I don't know. He's I'll leave him to it. He's a crazy bugger.
The amazing thing now is well, especially now, is how close all the races are, aren't they? You know, you go to a MotoGP race and the race lasts 40 minutes and the guys start together and, you know, they go round together and they finish 2 seconds apart or whatever. But in the Isle of Man, you know, it's, how many miles? It's sort of 300 miles or whatever. You're probably not even seeing each other the whole race, and yet you're still finishing 2 seconds apart, or
tenths of seconds now.
Yeah, tenths apart. I mean, that to me, different bikes, different riders, not even seeing each other, and it's, you know, you win a race by half a second. I mean, I can never quite get my head around that. It's amazing.
It is difficult. It's difficult when you're on the other end of the half a second as well. So, but you know, I get pit boards around the circuit, and over the last couple of years, it's the only time where we've had points on. It's always ever been plus or minus 2 or plus, but now it can be plus 0.7, which is a bike length, you know, over, and you know, with all the modern timekeeping now with the sectors and then your transponders, you can actually, you know, when I first started doing my TTs, I used to record the commentary with a tape recorder, and then play it back at home and just listen to it and think, well, you know, Joey was fast to such and such, or, you know, Ian Locker was quick over the mountain, or, you know, and just try and work it out that way. But now your transponders, you get your timesheets. There's nowhere to hide at all. It's all, each sector's there. You know, 6 sectors around the track. And I looked at lap 1, 2, and 3 of this year's senior TT. I looked at my middle sectors. Sector 1's different for the pit stops, and sector 6 is different. But the middle 4 sectors, the furthest sector apart was 0.2 of a second over like 6 mile sectors. So it was just, you know, I don't want to sound blowing wind up my ass, but each sector was to the 0.2, and some of them were identical. So that's how consistent I was, you know. So and lap 3 after the lap record sort of won me the race, if you like, as I pushed real hard with a new tyre and a full tank of fuel. And lap 3 I pulled away from the guy, and then lap 4, such a sweet position to be in, like you see plus 19 on your board, and you're just thinking, I got emotional, to be honest. I thought, I didn't never think it was going to happen again, but I thought, wow, I'm going to win my 7th senior TT, and I could feel myself like, and I look, concentrate, John Keating, and don't rev the bike, don't just bring the bike home, and you know, the atmosphere around the track was, you know, people waving programs all the way around. It's something you'd have to experience to actually understand what it's like, and then you cross the line. It was just mega. But I've gone off a tangent now. I'm wittering on, but
well, that was,
I don't know what the question was. I'm just going about something.
The 2015 Senior TT was voted the greatest fight back race in a Dunlop Motorsport poll, actually. And I was going to bring it up later, but it's great that you touched on it. Obviously, at the TT, you're racing for the Tourist Trophy, which is a trophy we have in the cabinet here. Ben, you have the original Tourist Trophy that was awarded for the TT races, do you not?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's a Tourist Trophy that John will hold as well when he has done 23 times. But the original Tourist Trophy was first held in 1905 for cars. It was won by in a Napier, and the second year, 1906, actually won by CS Rolls. And such was the success of this motor race in the Isle of Man, the motorcyclists thought, well, we can have a go at that as well. So they started the first TT in 1907. And just to correct myself, it was an Errol Johnston, not a Napier.
And the interesting thing about why the motorcyclists wanted to go to the Isle of Man was because for 2 or 3 years they'd had something called the International Cup that was like 5 or 6 nations, the British, the Austrians, the French, taking place in France and so on. And the French were cheating a lot, surprisingly enough.
No,
shouldn't say that. But at the weigh-in, at one of the bikes had to weigh less than 110 pounds or something like that, and you know, they were bringing them to the weigh-in with no chains and, you know, one pedal missing, and the seat post was a bit of sort of wood with painted in silver paint, and so the British were saying, we're getting fed up with this, we need to go and organise it ourselves. So that kind of came out, the TT came out of these kind of original international road races in Europe, which the English were very fed up because we never won them, because we'd find that there were nails in our tyres and all that kind of stuff, you know. So there you go.
The French cheating, who would have thought? We have a question, actually.
Lovely people, the French, obviously.
Yeah, no, they are.
Yeah, just say, don't talk to me about weigh-ins. I got to lose 10 kilos and I get my electric bike, so I had a little deal with Mugen. Mr. Honda himself, Hirotoshi Honda, said, if you lose 10 kilos, we'll give you one of the bikes, because I've been at him for 4 years for one of the Mugen electric bikes, and
How's that going?
Yeah.
Well,
From where I'm sat, there's room to go.
I'm trying. Yeah, this is a go faster stripe. This, I had to go for a weigh-in at Milton Keynes, the boss, one of the bosses was there, and I got a load of change. I got like about £30 coins and stuffed them in my shoes, so I could be a little bit heavier. And I had a couple of breakfasts on the train and like 2 litres of water down me.
Talk about the French cheating.
He went to I went to on the scale. Scales a little Japanese fella, Katsumatsu-san he's called. He's like, he's all over me all the time. He's at me all the time. He's like, whoa! He's looked at the scales. He was like, takes a picture of his iPhone. So I've got a test on the 18th of April to test a new Mugen. So if I look like I've lost a little bit, which
you don't
maybe a little bit, yeah. Let's say I'll be disappointed if I don't get it.
I mentioned just now we got a question from the club chairman Tom Purvis, and he was asking about Joey, which we've talked about, but also your memories of Steve Hislop. Was he I think I heard someone call him a flawed sporting genius. Is that sort of?
I'd agree with you there. Yeah, he was one of the fastest riders in the world, anywhere in the world, any track. But he was such a tidy rider, so smooth, so fast, and won 11 TTs. Should have won more, but for whatever reason he didn't. But he made some great battles, and I think his famous race was winning the 92 senior TT on the Norton, the Rotary Norton, and I actually rode that Norton at the bike as it finished at the Classic TT this year, and I'm sat on it thinking, how did he ride this bike, and how did he do 123 miles an hour on it? It was unbelievable, and such a small little bike, the power was so different, so unique, the rotary engine, no engine braking, the way it delivered its power, so weird really. And he beat Foggy in that epic race, and I got quite pally with Steve, I had a lot of time for Steve and he had a lot of time for me, and we always chatted, and he sort of dissected everything. If he ever was telling you a story, he'd be so animated, and he'd be making all the noises and the down changes, and it was just great company, and I remember telling him in my early days, I had nothing, and I was racing a Yamaha TZ250 in '93 or '94, and everybody had tie warmers and things. I didn't have any tie warmers, and I remember Hizzy bringing me an old Spar plastic bag or something. He said, here's some tie warmers, and he gave me a set of tie warmers, and still got them at home, and I wouldn't part with them. But I was massive respect for Steve, and I watched him win quite a few of his TTs, and I was on the banking at Rencullen with the wife, and I think it was 89 or 90, and did the first 120 mile an hour lap as well. So just great rider. Shame he's not here. He was always great company and great fun to be around, and like I say, he went around Donington in 32 something and went faster than Valentino Rossi on a Ducati Superbike in 2002.
2002, yeah. He actually held the outright Donington lap record on a Ducati Superbike. A sort of pimped up street bike, faster than Rossi had gone round on a Honda RC213V, which was and still is possibly the greatest Grand Prix bike ever built. So that just shows, as you say, how tidy he was,
and
was
how brilliant.
How he could get the absolute maximum out of a motorcycle when he was in the mood.
Yeah. It's a sad way he ended it on the Yamahas, and the Yamaha wasn't very competitive, and he had a bit of a fallout with Rob Mack, and it wasn't a great sort of end to his career really. It was sad to see, it was way better than where he sort of finished off,
So I'm jumping about a bit because I'm worried that we're nearing the end. I got a question here from Alan, who's records all this beautiful sound. Macau, obviously got a lot of history there and success. How does it differ from the TT course? Obviously there are a lot of very hard objects to hit that don't move, but it is very much a street circuit. Is it very, very different?
It is very different, is Macau. Yeah, it's like a short circuit basically in a tunnel with barriers around it. It's as far as a pure road race circuit goes, it is quite smooth, and it gets quite grippy. It gets really grippy, to be fair, because the cars, the F3 cars and the touring cars, really clean the track up. So it like the TT track gets quite dirty. There's tractors pulling out and there's dropping muck and stuff all over the road. So, you know, it's such a long way around, and you can be anything thrown at you at the TT, and normally a few road accidents and things. But Macau's quite a short track, and it does get very, very grippy. So it is like full commitment all the way around the track, right from the start of the race. It's a tough race. It's barrier to barrier to barrier, and you know, I think people say, "Oh, we're only on holiday," but when the race is on, we're not on holiday. It's serious business, and we all want to win it, and we're all going to give a good ride. But you know, there is parts of it that are a holiday as well. It's we have 3 days of checking out some local establishments, and there's
you mean shops, don't you?
Yeah, the shops with them.
Canadian bar.
Funny lights outside with.
They sell good fireworks in Macau, don't they? That was always a highlight, the fireworks in Macau.
Yeah, I've heard all sorts of stories about Macau. The stories I've heard, and I've got a few stories myself as well. I went to race there on a 500 V-twin Honda in 1998 on Joe Miller's 500, and I've been back every single year. You know, I only won it once in 2001, but we've had some great times. You know, I've seen so many changes in Macau. I mean, we used to go down the straight towards the Lisboa, and it used to be just the South China Sea. Now it's a 700-foot casino. There's MGM Grand. There's Venetians. It's just unbelievable, and the amount of money's getting spin round on those tables is incredible. But yeah, we've had some good times. We've had a few. Yeah, I think I might have been arrested for once. Maybe I got filled in by a doorman once in one of the clubs, but it wasn't my fault. That was completely Hutchie's fault. He set a fire extinguisher off, and it was funny. I had to go up these stairs, and one of them hit me on the jaw, but I didn't know which one it was. So I said to Hutchie, I said, just hit one of them, we'll run. I said, but I've got some screws in my hip as well, so I'm a bit. He's like Linford Christie, is Hutchie. He's got some pace on. Well, not anymore with his leg, but I got some screws in my hip. I said, look, give me a head start, hit him, and then we'll leg it. And we come running back, and one of the other boys got a bit of a knocking about, and we got back to the hotel. We weren't packed, and the coach was waiting to take us to the airport. And a bloke called Mike Trimby, you know Mike Trimby, who runs IRTA from Motor Grand Prix, he's signing everybody off, ticking everybody off. And 3 of us came back to the hotel. I've got blood running down my face. Locker's got blood running down. One of us is soaked with a fire extinguisher. And we just got one of those, disappointed looks. You know them looks that you get off your dad. When
They're the worst kind of looks.
Yeah. Just that. I was like, oh dear. Yeah, I mean, we're in trouble here. But great place, unique place. It only happens there. Weird things only happen there. I don't know. The temperature, the humidity, it's such a hard track as well, and it's such really fast bits, and then you go into really technical left rights, and it all looks the same. So it's a quite a difficult track to get right. When you get it right, it's quite a good track to ride.
There's not even any hedges to launch yourself into there, are they? I mean, it's literally just rock solid the whole way around. It's just arm
It's
cut
like
the whole way
running down
around.
a culvert. I raced a historics there about over 10 years ago. I remember you're using Mrs. Wong's laundry for braking points, and you're hoping in the hell that she doesn't move it the following day or put it on a different line. It's intensely narrow in places, and then you got the straight, which is wide, fast. It's
I went there in '98, and we had Jensen Button sat in my 500, you know, and the people I've seen come through, all the Formula One guys have done Macau. You know, we were sharing a hotel with Max Verstappen 2 years ago, you know, and he's in the gymnasium at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're just coming in from the nightclub, so he's looking at us guys like we're not right in the head. But I've seen great drivers. I've seen, you know, quite pally with Andy Prio, and Andy Prio won his world touring car titles there. So I've had some fantastic times in Macau. And I would always go, even when I retire from racing, I'd like to run a little team out there or something. Just go out there and just take some lads and go and have a good time. And
What you're going to say? I'd like to run a little tea shop out there.
No.
On that note, we really must end because I know you've got lots of other things to do. John, a very, very worthy winner of the Seagrave Trophy. Thank you so much for joining us. Ben, thank you for joining us. Alan, as always, for recording the sound. Matt, for rushing back from Wales to be here. Very kind of you. We will see you all next month for another Royal Automobile Club talk show in association with Motorsport. Thank you so much for listening.